Hi guys, welcome to a new video. So this has been a video that I've wanted to make for a very long time but just never got to it. And finally I want to take you through all our expenses we had on the road. We made a 4-month road trip starting from Ontario to British Columbia, actually Vancouver Island, where we currently are. We started in May 2020 until the end of August 2020, so about 4 months. I've used the app called Travelspend to track most of our expenses, and that's what I'm gonna use to base and make this video and tell you about all the expenses. First of all, very major category is our vehicle expenses. We decided to buy a vehicle instead of renting because for us in our situation in the long run it would just come out cheaper. We are here for a little while, or we were here for a little while, so if you're here just for a small 1 month or less road trip, then I think it's better renting, but longer, just look into buying something. We decided to buy an RV or motorhome. There is a reason for this, because in Ontario insurance tend to be very expensive, and for a car or a small van insurance was very high for us, and for a motorhome insurance was actually fairly cheap. So basically we paid $7,000 for our motorhome, and the insurance we paid for a whole year was about $800, which is on the cheaper end. But if you do buy into different province, definitely look into it all, because I'm not sure about all the provinces. They all have different rules, they all have different prices, and overall insurance tends to be pretty expensive in Canada, but it does difference between every province. Then once you buy a vehicle, you gotta put it on your name, so do a registration of it, and this costed us quite a bit of money. This was about $1,100 for just 1 year. And before the registration in Ontario, you have to do a safety check. This is something that's not in all provinces, but Ontario you do have to do a safety check. We did this, and the guy also fixed a few things, and this costed us I think about $800 as well. So the next part, which is still included in the vehicle expenses, is of course all the things we had to fix or parts we had to buy to fix certain things. And I'll just give you a little recap of certain things we fixed on our RV. Now keep in mind, our RV is pretty old. It's a 1993 model, so when you buy something this old, I guarantee you always have something to fix, definitely when you're doing so many kilometers driving. So we fixed our power steering because we had a leak, which was $1,000. We were also very unlucky. We had a big exhaust leak and we had to change the whole left hand side head. This was very expensive and was about $3,500. We also bought a new battery, which was $180. We bought 2 new valves for the black water and the gray water tank, which was $50. We bought some new spark plugs, which was $60. We bought a new air filter, which was $30. And then we bought a few other small stuff like some oil, gearbox oil. Some of these small things my partner did himself. He's pretty handy, so he knows how to do these things. So this way we saved ourselves some money going into a mechanic to get all these small things fixed. So if you do have some knowledge, just do these things yourself and save yourself some hundreds of dollars there. So this is a little recap of all our vehicle expenses, what we paid for the motorhome, insurance, safety check, registration, and all the fixes and parts together which was $14,820. And in case we are selling our motorhome, which we haven't done yet, this will bring the total down to $7,820. We are hoping to get at least the minimum back for it, which was what we paid, which is $7,000. But yeah, hopefully a little bit more, who knows. The next big category, of course, is fuel. Keep in mind that we have very big motorhome, so it's not very fuel efficient. So anything smaller will be more fuel efficient and you'll be spending less on fuel. But we drove 9,500 kilometers in total and we spent $2,700 on fuel. I think fuel has been a little bit cheaper during these past few months, maybe due to Corona, I'm not sure. Okay, next we have groceries, something you will always spend money on. This is of course very personal, depending on what food you love and how much you want to spend on food. You can go for pretty cheap to more expensive. We're pretty average. We spend still now about $600 a month for two of us, so this is about $300 a month for one person. So for the 4 months of a road trip, this would come down to $1,200 for one person. I must say, I think on the road trip we might have done a little bit cheaper than this, because we didn't buy as much like fresh foods and more canned foods, more like unhealthier snacks, I would say, because it's just so much easier, because you know you don't have all the space for it and you don't always want to cook a big fancy meal. But this is just to give you an idea. But as I said before, this is something very personal and depending on your choice of food. Next we got the shopping category. This includes a lot of different stuff. Before we left, we bought a lot of camp stuff, things we needed in the RV, like maybe blankets, pillows, cooking stuff, like all the stuff you can think of. So we spent about $500 on all these little knickknacks. We did buy a generator to have in the RV, which was also about $500. We bought a power pack, which is in case we have to like kind of tow ourselves. This was $180. And my partner bought a whole set of tools in case we do need to fix something ourselves. This was $150. Then we also have a few other stuff, like I had to buy a new phone because my old phone broke. So I spent some money on that. We bought some clothing along the way. We always bought secondhand clothing, so we haven't spent that much on clothing. But then we also have our cameras. We bought some new stuff for it. So you know, this list kind of continues and continues. But all up, we spent about $2,030 Canadian dollars on the whole shopping category. So it kind of includes a lot of stuff, but just to give you a rough idea of what could be included there and how much you spend on all these things. Okay, next is eating out. Now we all know, of course, due to Corona, a lot of places, restaurants were closed. So this is something we haven't spent that much money on. This is also, of course, very personal. We just decided to buy more groceries and save some money there, because of course if you buy out or eat out, it's always more expensive. We did every now and then bought ice cream or a smoothie or a drink, or I think we've eaten out like less than 5 times in 4 months. So all up we spent about $200, which I think is fine. You can treat yourself every now and then, but it's definitely not our biggest category. Moving on to phone costs, something you will have in every single country. Of course, when we just arrived in Canada, we had to change our number and get a Canadian SIM card. Now, Canadian phone plans are very, very expensive for the amount of data you get. We decided to go with Lucky Mobile and we pay about $40 a month. So this is only with 4 gigabytes. So for the 4 months, this is $160. Now 4 GB is not a lot. A lot of the time we ran out of data, and I do find it quite important on a road trip to have accessible data and you can look up things on the internet. Like, you're very, very dependent on that. So Canada, make your phone plans cheaper, please. Alright, next up we have RV utilities. Definitely when you have a bigger motorhome where you're using like water and showers and hot water and have a stove, this will also be in your list. So basically, to fill up our fresh water, we didn't actually spend that much money on it because a lot of the time you have free water somewhere. So this would only be $15 for the 4 months for every few times you have to pay for it. Now for the dumping, we also a lot of the time found free dumping spot, but every now and then you have to pay, which is about $23 in total. Then for propane, our tank is not that big, but it lasted us like 2 weeks to use hot showers and our fridge and cooking with the stovetop. And one tank would cost us about $20, so in total we spent about $120 on that. We did have an extra propane tank. We actually never really used it, but we did spend $50 on that in the very beginning. So this total comes to $208 for all these little utilities that, you know, just look for the free spots. There's definitely a lot of free spots for dumping and fresh water, but yeah, every now and then you have to pay for it, but it's not too bad. It's not too expensive here. Okay, so this next category, accommodation, you would think we haven't spent any money on that because we have our RV, but no, that's not true. We did spend some money on hotels. I would say altogether we've only stayed in hotels or motels for about a week, while our RV was into mechanic, so we spent about $287 on this. Of course, we tried to reduce this cost, but sometimes we just couldn't because we had to give our RV to a mechanic to fix stuff. Then another one we spend money on is some camping spots. I would say this is not that much money. We only spent $380 in total. This is mostly for all our camping spots in Banff and Jasper to stay in the national park. There's not many free spots around there, or you have to drive a little bit out of the national parks, but we just wanted to be close so we could spend as much time in the park itself. But besides paying for these few camping spots, we always looked and stayed in free camping spots, and I used the app Ioverlander for this, which is very, very good to find free spots to sleep and park your van. We're almost at the end of our list, but next up is entrances. Mainly I want to talk about a park pass for the national parks here in Canada. When you spend like over a week in the national parks, it is so much cheaper to just buy the park pass, which is a pass for one vehicle for a whole year. That's what we purchased, which was $140. Last but not least, we got our laundry expenses. This is something unavoidable when you are living on the road. So I think I wrote down an average here. For one load of washing, we paid about $4, and for about one load drying, we paid about $3. So for the 4 months, we paid a total of $140. The last category is activities. This is something we haven't spent too much money on. We only went to visit like 3 places. The first one was a mine site, which we paid $10 per person. We also visited the Tyrrell Museum, which is a really famous dinosaur museum, which we paid $21 per person. And then the last thing we visited was a motorbike museum, which was actually very, very interesting. And we paid $15 per person. So total for 2 people, we paid $92. Now this is also something very personal, depending on your budget. but you can spend a lot more on activities. For example, if you do whale watching, or a lot more museums, or whatever you like. But this is our personal choice to not spend too much money on activities. So as last, I want to show you a little recap of our total costs that we spent on our 4-month road trip across Canada. We spent about $16,717 for 2 people. So I just divided it by 2, then it comes down to $8,358. Now this little recap is in consideration that we do sell our motorhome for at least the price that we bought it for. Otherwise this little recap would be a lot more, but of course we're gonna sell the motorhome, so just keep that in mind. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye guys!